Welcome to my channel and my version of the Index Card a Day 2019, my Create Daily series. Today, this one's going to be in my quote journal, and it's the Be You theme. The techniques that I'm going to use here, taking the color theme from the focal image and stenciling with white on a colored background. So I'm starting with a gessoed page from my Happy Planner, and yes, you can see some pattern underneath. I've just put a coat of gesso on it. I didn't like the color. And here I'm using a focal image stamp, this hydrangea, and I'm putting it all over the background because I just want some interest and color. I didn't want to use my script stamp. And here's a way that you can use your focal image stamps in the background. Now this is going to show through. You're going to see little bits of this black showing through, and that's just going to add one more layer of interest. I'm not attempting to make a hydrangea out of this. So the focal image was the girl in this very colorful dress. There's orange, teal, yellow, red, blue in that dress. And that is where I picked the colors from. The quote that I'm using is, "Don't be afraid to show your true colors." So going with the focal image, I am mixing some yellow, orange, red, and all of these are heavy-bodied paints. And I'm applying this with makeup sponge. And part of the reason is you get more of a translucent look as opposed to full coverage opaque. And I'm really liking that look, and it blends so easily. If you want to add more color and you don't want to blend, let it dry. And just keep playing and blending and layering till you get what you're liking. And here I'm just kind of edging it with the darkest colors. Now this is Floral Spectacle, and it's the small one, and it's from the Crafters Workshop. And I love all these designs, but I've really had a hard time figuring out how to utilize this. And it dawns on, because quite often I reverse the stencil in my head. Here I'm attempting to use the red, and as I'm peeking, I'm discovering that I'm not really getting enough of the stencil effect that I want. So I'm debating whether to add a darker burgundy color or to go lighter. Now I could have had a white background and then stenciled this pattern on with these colors, but I'm reversing that. I put the color in the background, the mixed color, and now I'm going to stencil with white. And this is just Liquitex Basics white. You could use gesso. Now if I put one layer on, I'm going to get a certain level of coverage. If I go over it again, it's going to be more opaque and it's going to be whiter. And you can play with that and use both on the page. So I'm really liking the look of this. So I'm getting the pattern, it's white, but it gives the impression that it's actually the color. So this is something that I'm going to, I think, do more of with my stencils. Putting the color on and then stenciling with white. And you get that lovely pattern. You can see I used more white paint on the lower half, and it's more opaque, better coverage, more contrast. And while I've used the yellow, orange, red warm color scheme at the top, you can use any colors in the background, and then you're going to get a different effect when you stencil with white on top of it. So I've just moved the stencil a little bit because there was just a little bit, it wasn't quite the perfect fit, as is often the case. And usually you can maneuver something and do it, and no one's the wiser to knowing that you haven't actually connected this. Now I'm really liking the opaqueness on the bottom half, so I'm trying very carefully to put the stencil back in the place and make it a little bit more opaque at the top. And I'm absolutely loving this right now. And if I wasn't putting the focal image that I've chosen on here, I would have left this background pretty much as it is. Just making sure my other side. So my focal image has that teal in it. And I'm thinking here, I want to introduce some of that teal and the blue into the background, just to make it work more together. Now, if you are happy with this, that's where you stop. And I'm playing around with the sentiment there. And there I have a smaller version. I have a small version of it and I have a larger version. So because there's the teal and it's flowers, I looked at my stencil that I had and I picked out this tiny little motif, and I'm going to put it with the teal on the background. Just introducing that teal to the background. And this also gives some layering. So again, I'm using one stencil. Now this stencil has tons of little motifs that you could have isolated and used for different purposes. So while you can use the stencil as a whole, like I did for the background, I'm also using this one little element of it, one motif of it, to add to it, to how I want to do it. And that's how you personalize and make things your own, even though you are using somebody else's art, i.e. their stencil. And so now you have that background. Now remember, I know I'm going to be shading, and when I shade around this girl, that is going to make her stand out from the background, especially a background that's very similar in color and design. And there's a lot going on in her dress, in the background. Doing some think time, probably looking for the sentiments. I tend to have them there and then all of a sudden they're gone. Anybody else have that problem? Ah, there you go. I am decided there's a little bit of that dark blue, so I decided I'm going to splatter. And what I did there on the side is simply take the blue, put it on the palette, spray water, and get it a little bit thinned out, and I splatter with a fan brush. And I find it is a fairly loose fan brush that I use. Now I'm using the Crafters Workshop Gel Medium Matte Finish to put this focal image down. And I put it underneath and I put it on top. That gets rid of the shine from a magazine cutout. And you can see now the busyness of everything that's going on, the focal image and the background. So I have these shipping labels and I printed out some sentiments, and I was going to take that smaller version of it and basically paint the teal the size of the rectangle and put that on so that you would be able to read because it's translucent. But because there's so much going on in the background, I decided I needed to go bigger and bolder. So I went with the larger size sentiment. that, you know, has a lot more black and it's blocking off, because here I can handle the white. The white is kind of pushing the background more into the background. And as always, I'm playing around with that sentiment. Where do I want to put it? How do I want to put it? How am I going to arrange it? A lot of the times I start at the top and I move your eye down. And I'm also playing with whatever font. Depending on the font might change how you arrange it. But I like this sentiment because it says, don't be afraid, which could be in of itself a sentiment, and then to show your true colors. And this, you know, is why this page is so colorful. Everything kind of works together. And this one, while I was off prompt of the Daisy Yellow's ICAD challenge, it's on prompt with my BU theme. And you start with something. Here it was the focal image. I love this girl in this dress and her kind of attitude. And I thought that would just be perfect. And I'm enjoying using magazine cutouts and my stamps because I don't use that when I work on larger pieces on my canvases. So here I'm using the float acrylic technique and I'm shading the focal image. And the reason for that is I want it to stand out a little more from the background. Now I'm not 100% happy with my shading here. It isn't exactly perfect. And you know what? That's okay. I think what I should have done, instead of shading on top of the dress, I should have put the dark on the outside. So it's actually on the background. And I come back and I do that afterwards. But it definitely made it stand out. So now I'm taking some black and shading around the edges just to frame the page. And I'm going to grab my fine line bottle that has thinned black, heavy bodied black paint in there. And I'm just going to go, and I don't go all the way around. I put a line on the top and the bottom, and I'm putting a fairly thick amount. You can go thinner or thicker. I wanted it to be a little more bold, again, because the background is so busy. And then I'm going to go around the outside as well, just to frame it a little bit more. These little touches add so much to making it look finished. So thank you for joining me with this one. Remember, don't be afraid to show your true colors. Create for yourself, create every day. There are some close-ups here of the finished page and of the background even before the finished page was in. I hope you give this a try. Find a magazine picture that you like and design the background using the color scheme in it. It's a fun way to play with colors. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Have fun.